Hi everybody, this is going to be a ghost skull sort of tutorial. I'm just going to be doing a voiceover talk through. I was not in the best headspace while I was filming this and I wasn't really sure on the steps and stuff. Honestly, I was kind of just letting the creative process run its course and I was sort of just running on autopilot. There were definitely a lot of things that I could have done better, but I am happy with how it came out and I really know you guys love this look on Instagram. So thank you so much for all the love and I hope you guys enjoy this tutorial. We're not going to waste any more time and we're just going to get right into it. The first thing that I'm doing is covering up some of my dark spots and blemishes. I'm using one of my all-time favorite concealers. This is Makeup Forever's Full Cover Concealer. I love it so much. Once I have the concealer all blended out, I'm going in with some foundation. I'm using Milani's 2-in-1 Conceal and Perfect Foundation, which is a really nice matte full coverage foundation. I wanted this look to be a little pale, and this foundation is also a little bit lighter than my skin tone, so it's going to be a really good base. Now I'm going to get started on my eyes. I'm just patting on some of Anastasia Beverly Hills eye primer, and I'm just patting that all over my eyes. I didn't do my brows yet, so I'm bringing it up towards my brows and buffing it out into my foundation. Once I have the primer all set, I'm going in with some red eyeshadow. This is Sugarpill's Love Plus. So I'm bringing this red all completely around my eye, I'm bringing it all through the outer V area, but also throughout my crease and then into my inner corner. And then of course I'm also bringing it below along my lower lash line. I'm really just loading on the pigment and I'm not really trying to blend it out too much at this point. The next eyeshadow that I'm using is a grayish mauve tone. It's from the Milani Cosmetics She's in Party stack and the shade name is Total Immortal. I'm applying this shade all around the border of where I already put the red, and I'm just using this to blend the red out into my skin. Once I've got that all blended, I'm going in with a black eyeshadow and just patting this all over my lid. Of course, I'm also bringing it down along my lower lash line, and then I'm going in and blending that black out into the red. For some reason, when I was filming this, I was having such a hard time blending, but I'm really trying to just get the color on there and blend it out a little bit. I'm not being too picky with how perfectly it's blended. I'm just kind of getting it on there. Now I'm moving back onto my face and I'm going in with this white concealer from Colourpop, and I'm really just using it to highlight all the high parts of my face. I'm applying it all underneath my eyes and along my cheekbones, obviously the center of my forehead down onto my nose, and I did also use it to conceal my lips. And I also used it to kind of create a highlight on my jawbone, which obviously you wouldn't always normally do, but I'm kind of doing that because I'm going to be drawing the bones, so I kind of wanted it to be lighter colored where the bones are going to be. I'm really just going to town with my foundation sponge right now, just really buffing this out and blending it out into my foundation, and kind of just using this to almost shape my eye makeup a little bit as well, and just make sure that my base is nice and smooth before I get started on the skull shading. The next product that I'm using is actually a purple foundation. It's from Indi Beat Cosmetics and it's called Face Base, and this is the shade Fa. Each of the bases is named after a beat in Do, Re, Mi, Fa, so it's really cute. She named each color after one of those little note things. I don't know what you even call those. But I'm sort of just using this to start to map out where I'm going to be shading. Honestly, I kind of wanted there to be a little bit of a purple glow to the red on my face, so I'm kind of just blending this all around where the shading of the skull is going to be. I did end up blending this down onto my neck as well, which I ended up sort of taking off afterwards because I didn't really need to have foundation on my neck. So as you can see, I'm using it to sort of map out the bones and just sort of blend it around where I know I'm going to be putting the lines for the skull makeup. I'm also going in with a tiny little sponge to buff that into my face as well. I am also adding a lot of the purple to my hairline, and I'm blending it down from my forehead. So if you're using like an eyeshadow or face paint, just like bring it all along your hairline and just kind of blend it downwards onto your forehead. Now I'm going back in with my red eyeshadow, and I'm going to be using it to start to map out the skull and add all of the nice shading around the bones. I'm starting with the line that goes sort of around my temple, so I'm bringing that pretty like far up into my hairline where I create the initial line, and I'm just kind of blending it inwards. As much as it pains me to bring like face paint or eyeshadow or any type of like pigment into my hairline, you have to do it for the look. But it is annoying because it is really annoying to kind of like scrub out later with shampoo, but you know. So as you can see, I'm really just mapping out the bones of my face. I would suggest looking at a reference if you want to obviously use my look. You can copy the way that I do the lines, or you can look at a skull and kind of do it your own stylized way or interpretation. Once I kind of have all the bones sort of planned out, then I go back in with more shading and I just keep building up the eyeshadow until I'm like satisfied with how much shading I have. This part might require a little back and forth. You can go back in with foundation if you need to like fix any mistakes or make a bone a little bit more prominent. So I am doing a little bit of back and forth, but I'm really just going with the flow, and I'm just trying to make it look decent, honestly. I was not having a great day the day that I filmed this, and I just like felt like nothing I was doing looked right. So you can kind of see it on my face. I'm like not happy with how it's going, but I am happy with how the look turned out. So I'm really just at this point adding more shading, more red eyeshadow. I'm hoping that the red eyeshadow will wash away all my mistakes. I am now working on the teeth, and I start out by kind of adding the shading around my lips, like the inside of my lips. Then I go in with a smaller shading brush and start to map out like where the teeth shading has to be. And I always mess this part up a couple times because I usually end up accidentally like not doing it even enough with the other side. So as you can see, I am going back and forth a little bit, kind of trying to figure out like if it looks the same as the other side, and just making sure I have like the same amount of teeth on both sides and that they're in the same general location. Trying hard to make it symmetrical, but struggling a little bit. I'm now going back in with a little bit of white concealer and kind of mapping out the teeth that are like sort of the teeth that are curving back into the skull. So they're the teeth that are going to be like more shaded than the other ones because they're underneath the like curvature of the cheekbone. Even though the teeth can be tricky, you can just go back in with some concealer and eyeshadow and just fix your mistakes and kind of like do a little bit of trial and error there. If you don't get it the first time, don't be discouraged. I usually mess up the teeth a bunch of times before I get it to like look right, and at this point I was honestly so frustrated with myself because I felt like it didn't look right, but don't worry, you just have to trust the artistic process. Once I've got the teeth to an acceptable point, I am going in and just really blending out underneath like the jawbone. So I'm going in with the brush that I used for the foundation and really buffing out that eyeshadow to make sure it's nice and blended. And of course there's going to be a little back and forth, so I am going back in with some smaller shading brushes and really making sure that my teeth are as shaded as I want them to be. So for the black lines for the skull, I'm using gel liner, but I'm actually mixing a tiny bit of foundation in there with it to make it a little bit easier to apply and blend out. No matter what color your foundation is, you can add like a tiny bit of it to some gel liner and it should make it a little bit easier to work with if you're using it for like a face painting look. So I'm first using a liner brush to freehand like where I want the bones to be and kind of like map out where the shading's gonna be. And the whole process is really just mapping it out with the eyeliner brush and then going back in with a, you know, like slightly bigger shading eyeshadow brush and using that to really kind of just buff it out into the parts that I want to be darker. So I'm shading that above the outer teeth and between the cheekbone and the mandible, and I'm really just making sure to get into all those nooks and crannies. I'm also being sure to bring the black all the way around like the mandible bone, so I'm bringing it all along my jawline and blending it outwards like down a little bit underneath my jaw. This gives the skull a really nice like crisp look. I feel like it just kind of separates your head from your neck in a really nice way. And then I'm going back in with a small liner brush and just adding in those teeth lines. I'm just going in and I'm just doing it. The teeth are by far, honestly, like the most annoying part of a skull, and I could spend forever just like messing with them. So I'm really just going back and forth and trying to get them to look decent, and that's kind of just how I do it. There's no way to just really do it and get it like perfect the first time. I mean, I feel like maybe other people do, but I usually mess up a few times, so I'm really just going back and forth with the different materials that I used until I get it to look right. At this point, I did not know what shape I wanted my nose to be, and at first I tried to make it something fancy, but then I decided to just kind of make it like, you know, the average skull nose blob. So I just went in with the red eyeshadow and then blended around the edges with a little bit of white to kind of make it like buffed out into my skin a little bit. And now I'm going in with the tiny liner brush and my black gel liner, and I tried to like do a nice little design thing, but then I got annoyed with it and just filled it all in. So we have a nice little nose skull blob, and that's what it is. And at this point, I'm finally doing my brows. I'm just going through with some of Anastasia's Ebony Dip Brow. I actually took a break to style my hair before doing this next part, which is kind of doing like a little design on my chest, so it's not just like a ton of face makeup and then absolutely nothing on my chest. I like to just do a little something, not too much, but a little something. I actually just covered my chest in a bit of white foundation and patted it out, and now I'm going back in with the purple foundation, and I'm using it to kind of just shade like the lines. And the lines don't 100% make sense, but they're the lines that we're going with. I did a little boob contour in there as well, and then I just kind of did general lines. There's not a ton of like rhyme or reason to what I'm doing, but I'm doing it. And now I'm going in with some concealer, and this is the little design that I landed on, so I'm just going in and mapping it out. And then I'm just blending that out with a brush into the purple and diffusing it a little bit with a makeup sponge as well. And then finally I'm going back in with my red eyeshadow, and I'm shading. I'm shading with the shadow. So now moving on to the veins. I mixed my own little mixture for these veins. I used Milk Cosmetics Burnish Gel Liner and mixed it with a little bit of my foundation. And then I'm just going in with a liner brush and doing the veins. I feel like I definitely could have done a lot better with many of the aspects of this look, including the veining. But basically with veining, you just kind of want to be random and squiggly. I like to do, you know, like a squiggly motion. A lot of people's veining is sort of almost like straight. They make the mistake of doing like straight lines, but you gotta have a little bit of squiggle in your veins. It makes them nice and veiny looking. And I'm just adding a ton of them. I'm making sure that the base of the veins are kind of like going up into my hairline, and then my camera actually stopped filming, like it ran out of space and I had to switch the card. So I didn't get this part filmed, but I actually added a ton of red eyeshadow right along my hairline and kind of made it like fade into the veins. I'm also using a little makeup sponge with some foundation on it, and I'm patting this over top of the veins to kind of make them blend into my face a little bit better. And then I'm going back in with some liner and bringing some of those veins back a little bit, like adding a little bit of like detail veins almost. And then I'm going in with a little pencil brush and some white concealer, and I'm kind of highlighting in between some of the veins. It's not really necessary, but I did it. And finally, I'm adding some veining underneath my eyes as well. I'm using the same black liquid liner foundation mixture that I used for the lines on my skull, and I'm just making random lines coming from my eyes. So just like with every other step, I'm doing a bit of back and forth. I'm going in with a little bit of foundation, using it to correct some mistakes and kind of blend in the veins a little bit, and then going back in the black and defining some of the smaller like detailed veins. And now I'm going to be adding pearls. You actually don't even have to add pearls to this look. You can just use white eyeliner if you want. You can use rhinestones, or you can use, you know, the same type of like little half pearls that I'm using. I think I got these online somewhere like a few months ago, but you can also get them at like an arts and crafts store. And I'm actually using liquid latex to stick them to my face because liquid latex is easier to wash off than lash glue, and I was just going to be taking like this look off really quickly. So if you are wearing this look out, I would definitely recommend using a better adhesive or using lash glue, like not to use latex as an adhesive. I actually ended up sweating off a couple of the pearls. I didn't get it on camera, but while I was taking pictures, like the pearls kept falling off because I was sweating. But yeah, I'm just using liquid latex because it's like easier, but I would definitely recommend using lash glue or if you have like a better adhesive. This fancy little pencil thing that I'm using to apply the pearls is actually just a wax pencil, which you can also find online, and you might also be able to find at arts and crafts stores, but I usually just buy mine online. And I think it's just called a wax pencil, and usually like it's used, I think, for nail art, but this is what I use it for. I tried to be a little bit strategic with the size pearls that I was using because I did have a few different sizes, but I definitely could have been like better with it, with adding some like larger ones in different places. I'm just kind of being random, but then when I do get to my teeth, I'm adding like slightly bigger ones, obviously like towards the center, and then like smaller ones trailing outwards. So if you're just doing like eyeliner or something, you can just add like bigger dots of eyeliner towards the center of your teeth and then kind of like smaller dots leading outwards. I think that would look really cool. And then I'm adding a nice like white highlight to my cheekbones. This is Anastasia's Icy Pigment. I also added a ton of pearls to my chest as well. My chest is just like, there's no like definitive design there, so it's just kind of whatever. I also added some lashes really quickly. These are called It's Go Time from the Bold Faced Makeup. And finally, it's time to take out my hair. I actually just got a haircut. My hair was super long. It's like always been really long. I think this is literally the shortest I've had my hair since I was a child. And at this point, I realized I forgot to highlight my brow bone, so I'm going in and doing that really quickly. So here's the finished look before adding contacts, of course, but this is what it looks like with just my regular eyes. And now we're adding some contacts. I actually messed up putting it on a couple times, but finally I got it in. And then I got it the first try on my second eye. Thank goodness. And here's the final look with these creepy contacts. These are my favorite contacts. These are called Storm White and they're from the brand Kazzue, but I actually buy them from a website called ohmykitty4u.com, which I will have linked below. I do have an affiliate link, so I will have that below in the description. I already don't have great vision, but these contacts do reduce vision by about 50%, is like what it says on the box, I think. So do be careful if you decide to get these kind of contacts and you decide on going out. You might want to be careful because it is pretty hard to see, but it's fine. It's good. It's worth it for the video, worth it for the aesthetic of the look. But yeah, this is the finished look. I really do like how it came out, even though I was like 110% done with myself while I was filming. I just could not like I said, I was completely on autopilot doing this look, so it definitely could be done a lot better, but I like the concept, I like the idea, and I am really excited to see if anyone decides to recreate it. I'm excited to see those. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope I get it up before Halloween. I hope it's before Halloween when you're watching this, but I do hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think in the comments and subscribe if you haven't already. I promise I'll be back soon with another tutorial. I know I've been ghosting you guys like on and off for years now. It has not been a healthy relationship. But I promise I will be back with another video really soon, and I'll be back with actually a lot more videos really soon. You'll see. So we're back from the dead.